You're listening to the Disruptive Franchise Podcast with Stacey Can, the podcast that celebrates innovation in franchising and peeks behind the curtain of failure, success, and the future of the franchise industry. On this week's podcast, we're talking all about resilience and confidence and getting young people into franchising with my wonderful guest, Evie from Little Voices Sussex. Hi, Evie.
Hi, Stacey.
Thank you so much for joining us. So for those of you that weren't at the Disruptive Franchise Awards, Evie is our first ever next gen franchise champion. So well done. Amazing. Got you on today because I'd love to hear, and I'm sure everyone listening would love to hear a little bit more about your story, how you found franchising, and then we'll talk about how we get people into it because that's my passion point as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself first of all, Evie. What do you do and where are you based?
Yeah, so born and bred in Suffolk, and I actually now live back in the same house that I grew up in, which is really strange. But yeah, and I've always been brought up around music and performing arts. So my grandparents met doing theatre on like a local Amdram level, which is quite sweet. And so it's always been around me and in my life. And I decided that that was what I wanted to do and went to drama school. And ultimately I was like, yeah, this is not for me. So I came home and started working and then kind of fell into franchising from that. I'm sure we'll go into more detail about it. But yeah, so I now run a Little Voices franchise and we are all about building confidence and transferable life skills for 4 to 18-year-olds through drama and singing. So, yeah.
Why was that important to you to do something that helped younger people in those areas?
So I was a really shy child and I mean, I still struggle now in certain situations and especially when there's lots of people. I know you said Disruptive Franchise Awards as well, that you're more of an introvert and I was like, yeah, quite happily sit here at the back and not say anything to anybody. But I literally would not talk to anybody as a child. I would hide behind whoever I was with. And so for me, finding singing and acting, never really a dancer, not for me. It was like my outlet and it gave me a chance to be somebody else. I was like, oh, I can go on stage and not be me for a moment. So I loved that. And that helped me to find my confidence and kind of carried with me through everything up until now.
Love that. I was also a drama kid at school and as a massive introvert, my parents could never quite believe that they would come and watch me in these like big school productions. I'd be like singing and stuff. But when I came off stage, I'd be like, I didn't want to talk to anyone.
I'm still like that now. If anyone asks me to sing at an event and I have to sing as me, I'm like, no, thank you. Let me be a character on stage and that's fine, but I don't want to be me.
Yeah, I get that. Do you think that's helped you build a business in some respects? Because for me, I find it really hard. Like I'm a big open book. I'll be nice and vulnerable, but I find it really hard to kind of shout out myself. So I almost kind of have to think about like, what would like Beyonce has Sasha Fierce, like what does the alter ego need me to do today?
But it does though, doesn't it? Especially if you've done acting and you're so used to playing characters, you can kind of put yourself in that perspective and go, right, who do I need to be in this moment? How am I going to deal with that maybe difficult phone call? Or how do I, interact with a child? And they're very different things, but you can draw on those different experiences, I feel, as well.
Yeah, definitely. So you found Little Voices. How did you come across Little Voices?
On Instagram. I was just scrolling through and one of their adverts came up looking for new franchisees and I'd never heard of it because it started up north. So if you look at our map of like all of the franchisees, I'm all out on my own in the east. And then, yeah, so I had never heard of it. Filled out the little questionnaire thing because I was like a profiling, like what kind of person you are. And I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. Let's do this. And then it came from that.
Amazing. Had you thought about running a business before then? Or was it literally just a chance like this looks cool?
Up until then, I was working freelance. So kind of was not running my own business because I feel like freelance is I was running how I was doing it a little bit differently. But I was used to working for myself and I enjoyed that. I'm not very good at working for somebody else.
Same.
I think that's what we are like when you're creative people though, when somebody's trying to tell you what to do and to fit in a box, I'm like, I can't do that. Sorry.
It's always harder that way, I think. And I think what a lot of people don't realize about franchise is that you do have that scope to be creative, and you are able to go and put your own stamp on things. And yes, there's a system and we follow the system, but actually the support that comes with the franchise is so invaluable, isn't it, in those early days?
Yeah, definitely. And I get all the time, even, 2 years in, people are like, oh, why don't you just do it yourself? Or why haven't you thought about doing that? I'm like, because I don't, the amount of work that it would take to build something to that scale on my own and deal with all of the legal stuff and the policies and procedures that are just never ending and all of that stuff. But also you've got the backing from somebody else that's tried and tested it and knows it works.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you do that?
I definitely see there's two arguments, but I'm firmly in your camp of why wouldn't you just take that? We talk about it very often as a shortcut. So franchise is very often referred to as like a 2 to 3 year shortcut in your business because everything's done for you, it's all proven and stuff like that. But I think a lot of people what people don't realize about becoming a franchisee as well, though, is that obviously, yes, you get so much included in that, business in a box, but demand isn't included. So you have to actually go out there and really go and generate that for yourself, right? How did you find that?
I think it's been harder being the name not being known near me. So I think if I had a neighbouring franchise, it might have been slightly different. But even now, I feel like quite a lot of the schools that we work with and with our lessons in the community, they still don't realise that we are a franchise and that we're part of a national organisation. So I'm constantly telling people that. But I think it's hard when you're starting out because it is finding that demand, and everyone always talks about competition and okay, yeah, there's competition, but we offer something so different that is it, and people are going to go to wherever they want to go and whoever they align most with. So it's getting the name out there is tricky, but it does happen, but you do have to go out and do it. It's not just going to happen for you. And I think sometimes with that business in a box selling thing that you get with some franchises, that makes it hard because you think, oh, it's fine, the name's just going to carry it for me. But you need to be the one to go out there and do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Very, very rarely does the name carry it forward for you as that franchisee coming in. And I think more people need to know that for sure. But also not be scared of it because, look, you've been in business just over 2 years, is that right?
Yeah, so it'll be 2 years this summer.
It's amazing. And how have you found building that demand and that business? Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I have enjoyed it. Obviously, there's been challenges. So I launched in the summer because I was like, I'm going to launch with summer activities because parents need childcare. So I launched that, helped with the feed-in for our weekly classes. And we started with one centre. And at the time, I was teaching everything. I didn't have any staff working for me. And that centre's now doubled in size over this year. And we launched another one. And then we've got our third centre launching in September, which I announced. I put it in the Facebook groups on Friday. All half of the trials for our launch have already filled. It's just but every area is so different. So our second centre that we opened is a slow builder, and I knew it was going to be like that. But I knew I wanted to open in that area. But the demand is really area dependent, and I think you learn where works and where doesn't.
That's incredible. Just for context for those listening in, and when this goes out, Evie put that out on Friday. We're recording this on a Tuesday, so it's only been 4 days and she's half filled. That's incredible.
And that's just from Facebook groups. I haven't had anything else go out, which is mad.
I hope you're very proud of yourself. I'm really proud of you. It's not always like that, I promise. No, it's not always like that, is it? And there are I always used to find it from with my franchisee hat, yeah, this venue's going to work really well, and then nothing happens. What did I get wrong? And sometimes it's just the timing, or when you put it's not convenient for people or whatever. There's always that slight risk of disappointment. But I said this on stage at the Disruptive Awards, but we are a little bit adrenaline junkies if we are self-employed. So we kind of like that. Is it going to work or is it going to fail?
And the same area that we're launching in September, I'm doing a theatre week there in the summer because again I was like, right, let's have a nice feed in. The spaces for that sold out so quickly as well, so I was like, oh, fingers crossed this will be a good one. But and sometimes you just got to try it and take that leap.
Yeah, absolutely. How have you felt about failing? Because inevitably in every business there is failure. Did you find that hard? Like obviously you teach resilience to children and I know resilience is really important for you. But what was it like to kind of face some of those things that haven't?
So going back to when I was at drama school, when I left, I had to have a meeting with one of the principals, and I was on a full scholarship. I was really lucky. I was 6 months into my first year of training, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I hated it there. It was not for me. And so I said to him, I'm leaving. And the last thing he said to me was, just remember that you'll never be successful at anything in life because you have no social skills. So
Whoa.
yeah. So that's kind of whenever I think, oh, I can't do this, I just remember him because I'm like, I just want to prove you wrong. Like, not that I'm probably ever really going to see you again. I've seen him once since then. But I'm like, deep down, I know that I'm going to be like, I will do it. But, I think failing is always, failing is always an opportunity for learning, isn't it? It's, if you don't try something, you're never going to know if it's going to work or not. If you just sit there and don't do it, then it's definitely not going to happen. But I think some of the most important things that we learn, especially in business, do come from when things don't go how we expect them to. But then you just use that again next time and go, okay, yeah, I'm not going to do that again because that really didn't work.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't love failing. I don't think anyone loves it. But I like what happens as a result of failing. Because that failure is never as catastrophic as I think it's going to be.
No, and I will say that to my students because within Little Voices, we don't do like a big performance. We're kind of different to some of the other performing arts franchises, but our kids work towards exams. And so my older kids, the teenagers, they're always like, oh, but Evie, what if I fail and all of this? And I'm like, if you go in with that mindset, that's not going to help you. You've done all the preparation that you can do. You've just got to go in there and show them what you've worked on. And they had their exams last week. So fingers crossed.
Nervous waiting. Amazing. I love
There's
that.
nothing you can control about it now. So it's just, it's done. Can't control it. And I think it's the same with anything that doesn't necessarily go how you think it's going to. You've just got to move on from it and learn from it.
I think it's always, I think the resilience factor definitely showed with your application for the Next Gen Franchisee Champion. Tell us a little bit about winning that award and what it meant to you.
Yeah, so obviously I'm like nearly 2 years into business, so I hadn't entered any awards until this year. I didn't really expect anything of it. And then when it was announced as a finalist, I was like, oh, that's nice. I can go to Manchester for the day. And then, I was sat there and I was like, oh, they've just said my name. How's that happen? But I think what I really liked about the whole awards process and the entering it is it works as a really nice reflection piece. Because I feel like when you're in the day-to-day of the business, you keep going, don't you? And you don't necessarily think about what you've achieved and what's gone well. But actually for me, I sat there and I was like, oh, I have done quite a bit. I've done this. I can do so much more. So I think it worked. It was nice for me to sit there and actually go, okay, yeah, I have done a lot in 2 years. Yeah, it was a great day, and I'd never been to Manchester before, so that was nice as well.
It's a cool place to hang out, Manchester. I'm glad we did it there this year. In terms of what being that Next Gen Franchise Champion, so for those that aren't aware of what that means, it was open to anybody in franchising under the age of 30. And this aligns with the British Franchise Association's definition of like young people in franchising as well. At the last BFA official survey, it showed that young people in franchising had dropped by half actually what it was, down to just 7%. And if you've ever listened to any of these episodes, you'll hear me talking about the fact that actually we need to get more young people into franchising because, of course, it's a really important industry, but also I think it provides a lot of opportunity. But I'd love to hear your opinion on this, Evie, because for me, I think franchising is quite hidden from young people. Obviously, you found it.
I didn't know anything about franchising. Like, it was never spoken about in school. It was never been something that was brought to my attention other than that, like your big players like McDonald's, they're a franchise. That was about my knowledge. And so when I was then obviously researching Little Voices, and I spoke to obviously my family, and they were like, oh, do you want to go into franchise? And I think some people don't know what it is, or they think it's not a good route to go down. But there are so many franchises out there now. And there is something for everybody within it. And I think, especially for young people, there are so many more people coming out of school that don't want to go to university and that want to earn money and have that entrepreneurial mindset. But there are so many statistics out there to say that if you set up your own business, that you're not going to make any profit for the first, this is 3 to 5 years, I think, average. Whereas with a franchise, you're much more likely to be able to make a profit in your first few years of business because it is a tried and tested model. I think it comes down to the education piece at school. I could go on forever about how the system is broken in lots of different ways, but it's not spoken about and people don't know it is an option. I've spoken to so many people about it since now, and they're like, oh, but like, what if I wanted to do a sports franchise? I'm like, well, go and look at the BFA website. There are so many on there. But I think it does come back to the schools and them just not talking about it.
It is an education piece, definitely. And, you know, I don't think that's just in young people. I think that is wider as well. But particularly when, like, I'm a dinosaur compared to you. But like when I was at school, we were told, like, okay, you can go to university or you can go get a job. That was it. Whereas in Australia, they have a better system where they do actually introduce the concept of franchising whilst like people are still at school. So they know that there is a better, you know, like, in my opinion, better route. I went to university and then I got a job and then I bought a franchise and here we are. But when you kind of decided, you know, I'm quite keen on this franchise, what was your family's reaction like? Because like you just hinted on there, like I think a lot of people kind of think it's this like dodgy, scammy, don't get involved, you're going to get ripped off kind of thing.
Yeah, So at the time I lived with my mum. So part of my reasoning behind it and ability to go buy a franchise was that I was living at home and I didn't have like the outgoings of a mortgage or anything like that. And she, after like every call I'd had with Jane, who's the franchisor at Little Voices, she'd be like, so what did you talk about today? And I'd tell her. And to start with, I think she was quite apprehensive, but that's probably more just from a mum point of view and being like, what are you going to do? What if it doesn't work? And kind of that preparing me for that side of things, because I tend not to think about that. But after a while, she was just like, if that's what you want to do, you go and do it. And I mean, she helps me every week. She comes and sits at classes for me. She writes the scripts, you know, and she's all for it now and she loves it. But yeah, to start with, there was a bit of apprehension about it, I'd say. And the probably reasonable head of what are you going to do if it doesn't work?
Yeah.
Whereas I'm just like, yeah, let's do it. It'll be fine.
I was going to say, was there any hesitation? But I don't think there was there?
So I can give you probably our exact dates of how I very much. So I first reached out to Jane on the 6th of December. And by the end of January, I had signed and I was at the symposium. So not
Amazing.
really.
Love. You're like me. I was the same though. When I made the decision, that was it. I was going to do it. And the franchise also, I was in Daisy First Aid and Jenny said to me, like, are you sure? And I was like, yep, let's just sign it. Like, we're done. But what if? I don't care. This is it. We're off.
It's when you get such a feeling from the franchise law, don't you? And I spoke to other franchisees and I went to Julie's classes in Peterborough. I don't know how I fitted it all in like a month. Still users to that. But I was just like, yeah, let's do it. When else am I going to be in a position to say, let's go for it? So I did.
Yeah, I love that. I think the other thing, like the thing that excites me is I've got like 3 younger kids. And so when they hit that age of like needing to decide, such a big question is what are you going to do for the rest of your life as you don't even know who you are when you leave school yet. But like what I hope, and the reason I'm such a big champion of this for young people is that they just have the options available to them, because I think from my point of view, like I'd been self-employed years earlier. I found it really lonely to be self-employed and really high pressured to run my own business. And so I ended up going back into corporate. Whereas actually, I think if I'd have been more aware of franchising from a younger age, I think I'd, again, like you say, like you just hit that right life position sometimes, don't you? And you just think, why not? I had university debt that I cleared. It's nothing like it is now. And you see so many young people coming out of uni with huge debt that still can't get a job. And yes, uni can be a really important part of your journey sometimes, but it's hard. I also worked in apprenticeships for a little while just as COVID hit. So I was working with young apprentices that had come out of work and gone into apprenticeships. And there's so much government support behind, we won't turn this into a political one, I promise, but there's so much like government support behind the apprenticeship scheme and the funding. And I just think franchising deserves that and more.
It does. And when I've spoken to other younger people about franchising, their question is always, well, they say, oh, but I can't afford it. And I'm like, yeah, but have you gone to university? How much debt have you got there? How much, student finances do you owe back? And let's face it, most of the time, that's a lot more than the cost of buying a franchise territory.
Yeah, absolutely. And this, I think, is the killer for me, is that like, actually, yes, I know that upfront cost can be a bit of a barrier, but if you had to pay for university like that, you'd never go. And don't even get me started on like student loans versus the government startup loan, because the government startup loan, and there are other loans available, it's 7% interest and it's fixed interest, and you have it for a fixed term. So a franchisee who takes a loan out to fund if needed is able to make that money and pay it back in a way that if you're at university, you just can't do. So I think it's a more ethical way to start out in life than.
But also, like, the amount of lessons that building a business teaches you, like, that teaches you so much more than, any course is going to teach you.
I think what people don't realise, and I know you'll get this because of the position that you're in, but we don't realise that when you buy a franchise, you're going into a partnership. You have this franchisor who is the most amazing mentor in most cases, or a support team even better, like that actually will teach you how to set up the business, how to run the business. You get taught everything. And when I compare that to my business degree, where they taught me not very much comparatively, like, it's mind blowing, I think.
It is. And I think people also worry if they're thinking about franchising is, oh, but am I going to still have any creative freedom? Like, can I take my own ideas? And I know, especially within our network, we are so encouraged to give our ideas and put things forward. And I've been involved with a few pilot projects now that are now being rolled out to the network, which is amazing. And yeah, not every idea that gets put forward goes ahead, but I don't think that should be a worry for people either, because if it's the right franchise or in the right franchise, then your ideas will be taken on board because it's going to help the whole network to grow.
Yeah, I completely agree. What advice would you give, Evie, for anyone who's out there kind of thinking, sounds like it might be worth looking into?
I would take that leap, take that first step and speak to them. If you can reach out to other franchisees in the network, do that as well, because that's a great way to find out actually what experience they have. And that's something that we were encouraged to do when I was looking at Little Voices. I had to pick, I think it was 5 franchisees that I wanted to speak to, but they're going to be able to give you the actual like nitty gritty of what has worked for them and what hasn't, and their opinion on the franchise as well. And no doubtedly, they're going to tell you it's amazing because they're doing it. I think sometimes it helps to speak to people that are in it and to go, okay, yeah, it's not just the franchisor or whoever I'm speaking to in head office saying, go for it. Well, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think the final thing I'd also say there is that if it's positioned properly, you're not getting on a sales call when you contact the franchisor, because the franchisor isn't trying to sell you the franchise because you've inquired. It's not like when you buy a course or something like that. Like, they only want the right people to fit with the network. My advice that I would add in there would be like, just reach out to people, because they're not trying to sell you into stuff that's going to trap you forever.
You're wrong. Jane's follow-up is amazing. She followed up with me so much that eventually I was like, yes, okay, I'll buy. But they want the right people, because that's what's going to push the whole brand and the network forward. They don't want people that are going to, take it in the other direction.
Exactly that. Awesome. Evie, how can people get in contact with you if they've been listening and they want to reach out?
You can find me on Instagram, Little Voices Suffolk, or on LinkedIn.
Evie, thank you so much for joining us this week. I hope everyone's got something out of that. It's such a valuable thing that we have to keep talking about, because it's literally the future. And I genuinely loved your story. I was so thrilled. Obviously, I'm thrilled that everybody wins the awards, but I was so thrilled that you won it because I've kind of watched you from afar and we've messaged a little bit and stuff. But when I saw that it was your name that you were going to be doing, I was like, yes. So thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, and congratulations again for winning your award.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. This episode was brought to you by Impact Franchising, the agency who offer predictable franchise growth done for you. If you have loved what you've heard, please go and help other people find it by hitting the subscribe button and liking the episode. See you on the next one.